The greatest heresy in the Imperium may already sit on Mars, and the Adeptus Mechanicus calls it the Omnissiah. For 10,000 years, tech priests have bowed to the machine god. They chant binary prayers. They burn incense before engines. They anoint machines with sacred oils. They believe every cog and circuit is infused with divine essence. But what if their god is not divine at all? What if the Omnissiah is a caged alien predator, a monster older than the Imperium itself? The cult Mechanicus teaches that knowledge is revelation. No human invention is truly new. Every discovery is only rediscovery of the machine god's perfect plan. This is why schematics are locked in vaults like relics, why innovation is seen as arrogance, why deviation from ritual is treated as heresy. They believe technology does not belong to mankind. It belongs to the machine god. Every design already exists in his infinite pattern. The tech priests are not inventors, but custodians of memory. Yet behind the red robes and the sacred chants lies another story. One not spoken in Martian cathedrals, but whispered in forbidden archives, that the machine god is not a god at all. It is the void dragon, a Gitan, one of the star gods that enslaved the galaxy before mankind had fire. 60 million years ago, the war in heaven shattered reality. The Satan were living gods of energy. They fed not only on life, but on souls. They ruled over the Necrontyr and remade them into the soulless Necrons. Among these gods, the dragon was feared even by its kin. It consumed knowledge itself. It broke the minds of savants and seers. It hungered not for flesh, but for intellect, a devourer of understanding. The Necron codices describe the dragon as the eater of understanding. It could strip the genius from a civilization as easily as tearing meat from bone. Entire dynasties collapsed without a single battle. Their rulers sat blank-eyed, their thoughts stolen, their culture gutted. Legends claim the dragon was not only hunger, but also vision. It dreamed in steel. It whispered images of perfect circuitry. Those who fell under its shadow saw worlds of endless machinery. Some worshipped these visions as truth. Others went mad, unable to bear the dragon's voice. When the Emperor rose in the age of strife, he did not ignore Mars. The Forge world was already strange. Its culture was older than the Imperium. Its people had long feared innovation, long treated relics as sacred. Some say this was already the dragon's influence, leaking from its prison. The Emperor descended into the vaults beneath the Red Planet, and there he fought the dragon. Some texts call it a duel of will, others a storm of lightning and fire in the caverns below. But one truth is clear. The Emperor did not destroy it. He chained it, he broke its body and bound it beneath the Martian crust. Afterward came the Treaty of Mars. The Mechanicus could keep their faith, they could keep their rights, they could keep their god. In return, they would serve the Imperium with their forges and weapons. To most historians, this was politics, a pact to keep Terra and Mars united. But what if it was something darker? What if the Emperor allowed them to worship the very being he had just imprisoned? The Omnissiah was proclaimed as the machine god's chosen aspect. The Mechanicus declared it to be the Emperor himself. But what if they are wrong? What if every prayer, every litany, every scrap of devotion does not go to the Emperor, but instead sustains the dragon? The cult believes they serve Terra's master, but in truth, they may be feeding a broken Xenos god. This is the paradox of Mars. To the ecclesiarchy, the worship of a machine god is heresy. The imperial creed demands all faith be directed to the Emperor alone. But Mars is untouchable. Its forges build the tanks, the ships, the titans of the Imperium. Strike at the Mechanicus, and the Imperium itself collapses. So the ecclesiarchy turns away. They call the Emperor the Omnissiah. They insist the cult is simply another face of imperial faith. But even they whisper doubts. Even they suspect that something deeper, something alien, lies beneath the red soil. And the Mechanicus does not deny it. Ask a tech priest if the machine god is the emperor, and you will never get a straight answer. Some say yes, others refuse to answer at all. Some admit that the machine god is beyond the emperor, that the emperor is merely its prophet. In this ambiguity lies the shadow of the dragon. But before we go further, if you're into these deep dives, hit like and subscribe. It tells me to keep digging into the darkest corners of the 41st millennium. This is not just speculation. Imperial records hint at it. The Book of Mournful Night, seized and sealed by the Inquisition, speaks of a dragon beneath Mars. Its words are forbidden, its pages locked in vaults where only the Ordo Malleus may tread. But even their silence is a kind of confession. The Black Library, S. own accounts in the novel Mechanicum, describe visions of the dragon, S. psychic presence. Long before the Emperor arrived, Martian culture bent toward worship of machines. Tech priests dreamed of endless circuitry. They saw visions of infinite engines. They heard whispers of perfect design. All of it could be echoes of the dragon's hunger, bleeding into mortal thought. Consider the rituals of the Mechanicus. Every chant, every offering, every drop of sacred oil poured onto steel. What if these are not harmless rites? What if each act is psychic sustenance for the creature bound beneath the crust? Not for the Emperor, not for the Imperium, but for the Void Dragon itself. If this is true, then Mars is not just a forge world. It is a prison sustained by worship. Every prayer keeps the dragon chained. Every relic guarded as sacred may also be a shackle. And the entire weight of the Imperium depends on the lie holding firm, because if it does not, the Mechanicus collapses. And without the Mechanicus, the Imperium's war machine dies in days. No Titans, no Skitarii, no warships. Even the mighty space marines would be stranded, their sacred bolters useless without the forges of Mars. So the lie continues. The Omnissiah remains proclaimed as the Emperor. The tech priests continue their binary hymns, and the Void Dragon waits in silence. But this silence is not harmless. The Necrons remember what the dragon was. They called it the Eater of Understanding. They recorded how entire dynasties fell to its shadow, not by war, but by the theft of thought itself. Imagine that shadow still lingering on Mars. Every tech priest at risk, every Magos, every forge lord feeding scraps of intellect into the dragon's chains. If true, the cult does not merely sustain it, they are consumed by it slowly, and with every passing century, the dragon grows stronger. The Inquisition knows fragments of this truth, but they cannot admit it. If they denounce Mars as heretical, the Imperium would fracture overnight. If they revealed the Mechanicus worship a Xenos god, armies would revolt, fleets would turn on themselves, and terror would stand alone. So the Inquisition remains silent. They burn records, they lock archives, they silence witnesses, and they call it loyalty. But not all inquisitors agree. Some whisper that the Emperor never intended to kill the dragon, that he saw it not as a threat, but as a weapon, too dangerous to unleash, too valuable to discard. The dragon bomb theory haunts the Ordos. It suggests the Emperor chained the creature not as a jailer, but as a general holding a reserve force. A final card to play in humanity's darkest hour, a weapon too terrible to waste. If this is true, then the Adeptus Mechanicus are not heretics. They are caretakers, not slaves to a false god, but wardens tending a chained one. Their rituals may not be devotion, but maintenance, feeding the beast just enough to keep it bound, strengthening chains that prayer alone cannot hold. This casts the cult in a different light. Their obsession with repetition, their terror of innovation, their fixation on sacred schematics. Perhaps all of this is not blind faith. Perhaps it is survival, a defense against the whispers of the dragon, a way to avoid madness. Because when the dragon stirs, intellect itself falters. The brightest minds collapse into silence. Geniuses fall into blank-eyed stupor. Knowledge itself is consumed. And if the dragon's shadow lingers on Mars, then every forge, every machine, every ritual is a double-edged act. Both worship and imprisonment, both leash and sustenance. So which is it? Are the tech priests blind slaves to a Xenos god, or are they the Emperor's secret jailers, tasked with maintaining a prison beneath the Red Planet? The answer depends not on knowledge, but on faith. And faith is something the Imperium cannot question. Because when the dragon stirs, intellect itself falters. The brightest minds collapse into silence. Geniuses fall into blank-eyed stupor. Knowledge itself is consumed. And if the dragon's shadow lingers on Mars, then every forge, every machine, every ritual is a double-edged act. Both worship and imprisonment, both leash and sustenance. So which is it? Are the tech priests blind slaves to a Xenos god? Or are they the Emperor's secret jailers, tasked with maintaining a prison beneath the Red Planet? The answer depends not on knowledge, but on faith. And faith is something the Imperium cannot question. Now imagine the chains breaking, the dragon's shards rejoining, forming a body of living metal, its wings tearing free of the Martian crust, its psychic scream shaking the heavens. Mars itself convulses. Forge cathedrals collapse in storms of fire, skies crack open with lightning, and billions of crimson-robed tech priests fall to their knees, not before the Emperor, but before the dragon. The Forge Lords proclaim the awakening as revelation. The Skitarii legions march under alien command. The Titans rise, no longer in service to the Imperium, but to their true god. Martian fleets turn their guns toward Terra, and the Imperium faces a war it cannot name, because to name it would be to admit the greatest heresy of all. If that day comes, the silence of the Emperor will be explained. Perhaps he left the dragon chained not as a curse, but as a weapon for a future he foresaw but never explained. Perhaps he trusted that faith could hold it until humanity's darkest hour, or perhaps he could not destroy it, and his silence was fear. The Inquisition cannot answer. The Ecclesiarchy dares not. The Mechanicus will never admit the truth, and so the lie holds. But beneath the red soil of Mars, the void dragon waits. Every chant, every offering, every prayer, each one a link in the chain. Each one a drop of blood in the maw of the beast. The Omnissiah is either the Emperor's hidden weapon or the Imperium's greatest heresy. A god of metal, not man. And one day, the chains will break. Subscribe if you want the next forbidden file. Or better yet, watch the one already waiting on your screen.